Hello, everyone. Pastor George here with Tuesday Theolog. I hope all of you had a joyous Easter last Sunday. It was awesome to see so many of you at the service. And I hope that, if you don't attend our church, but you like to watch our videos, that you were still able to go to an Easter service or enjoy Easter in some way. So I hope that it was joyful for you. Now to kind of just switch topics, because again, I can really talk about whatever I want to on these Tuesdays. And today I wanted to talk about Puritans. Now, you might think that's an interesting thing to talk about because, this is a history course and it's not really meant to be. But I actually encountered a documentary recently about the Puritans that I might show to the church one day. I don't know. It was pretty good. But I thought about how they're actually really important, not only in, uh, American history, obviously, but in the history of the Presbyterian Church, because many Presbyterians were Puritans and such. And so, firstly, I think that we need to start with the idea that they've been given a raw deal, generally, right? Puritans, when you think of them, it's this idea that I can't remember who said it this way, but I think it's a famous quote that someone out there is having fun and I don't like it. That type of idea, right? That they're kind of these stodgy people that kill fun. And that certainly was their reputation, some of their reputation anyway, at the time that they were writing. But the Puritan movement lasts for well, I mean, it's still kind of going on, but it definitely lasts for like 200 years. So it's a wide range of time, and you have lots of different figures. You have everyone from, people that you would probably classify as those rigid, kind of stereotypical Puritans, to people like Isaac Watts, right, who wrote some of the most joyous music that we have and that people in all sorts of different churches sing in the English speaking world, right? So you have all these different groups of people that are kind of in the thing of Puritanism. Puritanism itself kind of gave rise to the small e, I want to call it small e, evangelicalism that has kind of become very popular, right? You got it with the Methodists, but also with Jonathan Edwards and other people in the United States. And so it is very impactful. So what were Puritans, right? Well, Puritans were part of the group of the Church of England, right? They were in the Church of England at the time of the Reformation, and they got the name Puritan because they were interested in purifying the church, right? They were readers of John Calvin and in the strain of the Reformed movement, and so just like Presbyterians, and so what they sought was not a middle way between Roman Catholicism and the Reformed, was as is typical of other Protestant movements, but rather to totally reform the Church of England and make it a lot more. Uh, well, reformed is a good word for it, but make it a lot more Protestant, I guess, the most Protestant it could possibly be, right? So jettison all of the Catholic elements that were kind of left over, and keep it that way. And they were largely successful for some time, and then Queen Mary came back, and they fell out of favor, and then Elizabeth came back, and she wasn't a huge fan of them either, and then they kind of waxed and waned as time went on, again hitting their strongest point with the English Civil War and Oliver Cromwell taking over and all that type of stuff. So that was their thing, right? But actually, what they were really all about, and this is why it's kind of crucial to understand this before we kind of stereotype them or whatever, is that they're really big on God being worshipped the way that God wants to be worshipped. So they did all of these things in order to help people, see what the Bible is actually saying, right? So you have them doing all these things, and you have all of these benefits that come from that, right? Increased literacy, all of these things, because they want people to read the Bible and find it very important. But the cool thing about them is, and I think is really important, is that they're able to recognize. Even in themselves, right? Despite this reputation that they have of kind of being these holier than thou types, is it's actually not really the case. A lot of them really understood the depths of their own sin, especially the preachers and people like that, and how corrupt that they themselves were. But at the same time, how joyous it is to live into the life that Christ has given us, right? And that's kind of what the Puritan ethos was all about, which is why they were really actually big on living in the world, believe it or not, in the sense of, not making their own communities. The funny example of this is probably the most famous example of Puritans, and it's an outlier in the United States, is of the people coming to the New World, right, to escape persecution and set up like a New Jerusalem here, which was a group of Puritans. But that's actually kind of an outlier. A lot of them stayed in England and tried to reform the church there, right? And so it's just this interesting thing, but it was meant to be a movement where you lived in the world and tried to show people your faith through your actions and things like that. And it ended up eventually kind of petering out and things like that, or shifting into other areas that weren't Puritans. A lot of the Puritans were kicked out of the Church of England, and so they just set up churches everywhere else. But it was an interesting thing, an interesting experiment, and something that still impacts the church today in a lot of ways. And for the first time in many years, people are starting to read their writings again and be like, oh, wow, actually, what they had to say was pretty useful. So I don't know. Just wanted to do an apologetic for the Puritans today, just because it's something that popped up in my feed. So hope all of you have a wonderful rest of your day. I will see you tomorrow for Bible study and later in the week. Peace out.